The moment Texas A&M took over Death Valley, took over Tiger Stadium, was the best moment in LSU football program history. Thank you, Aggies. The past year for LSU athletics has not been a good one. It's been pretty bleak, if I must say. LSU football, fail. LSU men's basketball, well, fail. LSU baseball, fail. I would probably say it may be collectively one of the worst academic calendar years for a university school program ever. And today when I was making a thumbnail and I was trying to put together everything that I wanted to talk about tonight, I kept thinking about what has happened in the past year and reflecting on memories. And I'm going to go over that a little bit with you. Before we get into all that, I want you to do me a favor. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button. Please like the stream. It's free. It helps me out tremendously. I hope all of you have enjoyed the content recently. A lot of you checked out the John Eads interview, and I hope y'all are enjoying the shorts I'm making from them. They're fun to do. Do me a favor, do that. Make sure you go follow all the X pages. Walk It Off Talk on X, Paul Jarrett 16 on X, as well as on Instagram. Last week, we had a comment. I think my buddy King, I can't remember his actual Twitter name. I apologize, King. Made a post. It was a repost of, is Bryce Underwood overrated? And he said, boy, did we dodge a bullet. And the way I looked at it was, I'm happy we didn't get Bryce Underwood here to LSU. And I called some flack for that. People were saying I was wrong. If Bryce Underwood came, I'm sure BK would still be here. And through all that mess and all that back and forth with people on X, I started thinking about, okay, what are the memories I have? Well, let's go all the way back to November 2024. Bryce Underwood decommits from LSU and goes to Michigan. That slowly started the fall for LSU football. That was Brian Kelly's ace in the hole. That was Joe Sloan's ace in the hole. What happened after that? Well, first game against Clemson, we're like, all right, we're on the right track. We're good. Garrett Nussmeier looks good. The defense is working well. The wide receivers, Aaron Anderson, Harlan Berry, Caden Durham, everything's working out well. Offensive line looked more productive than we expected, but it was all facade. It was all fugazi. Then Florida. You can't move the ball in Florida. Why? I just think Danny Lackenmeyer. DJ Lagway throws 5 picks, and the score at the end of the game, which I can't remember off the top of my head, is not commensurate with the amount of turnovers your defense took. Brian Kelly at a press conference famously tells Michael Cobble and the LSU fan base,
you know what? You're spoiled. You're spoiled.
The program, as we learned throughout the year, is cloaked in a shadow and a smog of secrecy and lies and injury cover-ups.
We have not amputated his leg. He has a PO'd, and you know the initials that, patella tendon.
Which leads to the culmination of the firing of Brian Kelly. LSU basketball, there really wasn't anything to celebrate. Coming into the season, we knew Matt McMahon had spent a lot in the portal. He had the backing of some boosters, and he went out and got some talent. Well, injuries plagued his program. And in the end, Matt McMahon could not stand up and could not fulfill the modicum of requirements to be the LSU basketball head coach. And he was let go. LSU baseball, high hopes. Coming off of national championship, Coach Jay Johnson goes into the transfer portal, gets the #1 transfer portal class in the country. People forget that. That was graded the #1 transfer portal class in the country. And failure. These are the darkest days of LSU athletics. And people have asked, was it all bad? I say no. But before we get to what everybody says is bad, let's look at the accomplishments. It wasn't all bad, right? I mean, Kim Mulkey and the LSU women's basketball program made it to the Sweet 16. They would lose in the Sweet 16, but we're all upset now about a Sweet 16 appearance for women's basketball. I guess they're being successful. If our standards are that high for Kim Mulkey and his women's basketball program. Beth Torina, a long-forgotten coach at LSU, makes it to a super regional where they are paired up with the number 1 seed Alabama and they fail. How would a super regional taste right now if you're a baseball fan? Would you be happy about that? I think a lot of you would. A lot of you are watching the NCAA tournament right now and seeing UCLA go down and Georgia Tech go down. Little Rock and Troy hosting a super regional together. I don't hear a lot of fire Beth Tarina talks right now. Why do I think none of this is bad? Going back to the Bryce Underwood decommitment, I believe if Underwood would have came to LSU, we wouldn't be in the situation we are today. We would still have Brian Kelly as the head coach. I don't care what you think and how they would have fired him, this and that. You put that kind of money behind an incoming quarterback, you're not going to fire the head coach he came here with. Hopefully, with a terrible offense that the LSU football team had last year, Joe Sloan is gone. But don't forget, it took Jacques Doucet putting out a video.
You guys dominated the second half of the time. Great job. Appreciate it. Proud of you. Proud of you. Hey. You are. I took them shits off at the game. I'm done with them.
After, what was that, the Cheez-It Bowl? The defensive players' disdain for Matt House and the fan uproar to get Matt House run out of the building. If BK isn't fired, more than likely, Scott Woodward isn't fired. And we all have now learned the type of purse strings he held and how he tightened them and how he didn't open them up for anybody. It means you don't have the roster you had this year. And at the same token, boosters would have been as distant as they were, and it would have stayed being that distant, if not gotten further away from Brian Kelly and his LSU program, due to the way they didn't like how Brian Kelly acted towards boosters and how he felt he needed to interact with them. Listen to John Eads' words on last week's podcast.
Understands what this is, and he's not straying away from it or acting pretentious or I'm above thee.
Pretentious and above thee. That was Brian Kelly. And now it's his relationship with the boosters. He fell up. I'm the head coach of LSU football. I don't need to deal with you. Go talk to Austin Thomas. And that's not the way it works here. And he never learned that. As a side note, an assumption I had, I believe Blake Baker takes a Tulane job. If Brian Kelly is still here and John Summerall takes either the job at Florida or Ole Miss or whatever, Blake Baker does not come back and stay at LSU, in my humble opinion. Above all else, Lane Kiffin is not hired. If Bryce Underwood commits to LSU and stays committed and comes to Baton Rouge, Lane Kiffin is not hired. How can you hire him? He won't fire BK. Trey Green, DJ Pickett, Harlem Berry, more than likely enter the transfer portal after last year. Wood Weeks, more than likely, goes to the draft or enters the portal to go hang out with Landry at Ole Miss. Is Sam Levitt your quarterback? If Brian Kelly is still here. How about in this little doozy? Ed Orgeron's not hired.
How about them Tigers, baby?
Ed Orgeron is not back in the purple and gold in Baton Rouge recruiting. And you all saw the videos from this past weekend from the official visits.
Just win bars in 1984. Everybody got that? Right. When we walk out this field, we're going to kick some ass. You got to get that.
And the statements made by the recruits of how important Ed Orgeron is to this program. Kevin Smith, you don't have your running back coach riding down the road bumping Boosie. That isn't the culture of your program. The state of Louisiana is not united behind its flagship program anymore. If BK is still here. Let's talk about Will Wade. Just as the Phoenix rises from the ashes, so is this LSU athletics department and all the programs therein. Will Wade has already been engulfed in the flames of an inadequate and inept athletic department. And to boot, I would argue it wasn't even his fault. Did he pay a player out of his own account? Yeah, I get it. Whatever. What happened like the next year? Did NIL become a thing? Are we paying players now? And it's not pay for play. Shut up. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is pay for play. It's pay for play across the board. Why are we talking about what the MLB is going to pay a player in a draft if it's not pay for play? The failures of the athletic department that was too afraid to stand up to the bully and look him in the eyes and say, that's enough. I'm not going to stand for it. It's the downfall of Will Wade. But the general has returned to his battlefield. The general is recruiting his troops and forming a team that the world is not ready for. But Will Wade is being called unethical. He is terrible for the sport. Matter of fact, he's destroying the sport. Will Wade is not deterred by the sounds of sheep. The general will find victory no matter the condition of the battlefield. Just as it took the darkest of nights to raise the fire needed for this LSU football team, the 2026 LSU baseball team is now feeling the flames. Jay Johnson has been ridiculed for not recruiting enough Louisiana players. Nate Yeske has fallen from the beloved pitching coach to now the scapegoat for a bad season. Fans being disappointed in defense, comparing the play of this year to the statistically best defensive team in the LSU program history. Jay Johnson has been ridiculed for depending on the transfer portal. Yet, he's being begged to dominate the transfer portal today. But unlike the so-called fans hiding behind memes and burner accounts, Jay Johnson isn't afraid of the flames. After the loss to Auburn in the SEC tournament, Jay Johnson spoke about his outlook moving forward after this season.
I want guys that build their life around baseball and not fit baseball into their life. And that's why there will be a ton of not just reflection, but action. You know, this is about what we do with this. And, you know, I'm fully like, you know, it will be dove into it at its fullest extent. Everybody's got to do better. And myself, coaches, players, and we need to learn from this so we can.
And that there will not only be reflection, there will be action. Same thing he said earlier in the season.
It will never happen again. I made some mistakes in constructing the team and trying to replace two guys that were irreplaceable, where we should have looked for replacing them through guys that were already in the program and then replaced the guys that were athletic and could play defense and be more complete players. Okay, we won't make that mistake again. You know?
This will be fixed. This will not happen again. You've heard me talk about the villain era for LSU, right? You've heard me talk about it's time to embrace being the bad guy. It's time to embrace being the villain of college athletics. Lane Kiffin is continually, every other day, being tried for crimes against humanity when it comes to college football. Will Wade is listed as #1 on the college basketball terrorist watch list. You don't think Jay Johnson is going to be vilified for what he does in the transfer portal this upcoming offseason? You don't think they're going to come for Jay Johnson and LSU baseball? You're out of your mind. It is always darkest before the dawn. The athletic department at LSU has found themselves in that darkness. Remember these times of darkness and be sure to never forget them. It will only make the enjoyment of success that is coming for these programs that much greater when the dawn arrives. Get ready for some good athletics around here. Get ready. You have the right people in place. We're giving them the ability, I hope, when it comes to Jay Johnson, I hope they're giving them the ability to do what needs to be done to make football, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, track, tennis, golf, whatever you want to say, they're going to do what they need to do to make them successful. I'm ready for the sunshine coming down these programs. I'll tell you that.